But if you just use the right inlet, it goes. It's because people do not make the necessary effort to find which way. They want to go the way they know. It looks impossible. It is like you're riding a bullock cart, but you want to go to the moon. Somebody gives you a horsewhip and tells you, really whip the bulls, you'll get there. You won't get there. The reason why it's become so difficult is because too much nonsense has been spoken about it. If nobody had said anything about it, many people would have found their way. Too much nonsense has been said about it and a whole lot of confusion created. People have written too many things about it without knowing what it is. People have said too many things about it without having a clue what they're talking about, which has left people absolutely confused. At least, if people shut up, human intelligence is capable of knowing this. Because if you have an uncluttered intelligence, if a human being grows up with an uncluttered intelligence, when I say uncluttered, if your intelligence functions without being identified with anything in particular, then knowing the inner dimension becomes a natural process. Right now, that possibility has been taken away because right from day one, the parents are working hard to get the children identified with their family and their stupid values and whatever. The teachers are working super hard. You okay for a joke? I'm supposed to be serious? No? On a certain day, a bull strayed into the forest. He saw lush green grass and he went grazing, inside. He went deep into the forest. A few days and weeks living there, he grew fat on food and no work. Then an old lion, who was well beyond his prime, was having difficulty hunting the wild animals, saw this fat bull. Easier to stalk and kill a bull than a deer, So he looked for his time and then pounced on him and killed him and ate him up. His stomach became real full. Then with great satisfaction he roared. A few hunters were passing that way. They heard the roar and tracked down the lion and shot him dead. The moral of the story is, when you're so full of bull, you should not open your mouth. But all the time these people are opening their mouth. If they all shut up for some time, it will be very natural for every human being to long to know. Right now they're just destroying that by giving ready-made solutions and all kinds of nonsense to believe in. It is very natural for your intelligence to probe at everything, isn't it? And how can you ignore yourself? You have ignored yourself because they have always made you look up there at some God that they themselves have not seen. Because of this, enlightenment has been transported or exported to heaven. Otherwise, it's simple, it's the most obvious. When you heard of Arjuna. So when Krishna went on talking truth, Arjuna said, "What the hell is this truth that you're talking about? Where is it?" Because if I ask you, is it here, you say no. If I ask you, is it there, you say no. At another time, if I ask you, is it here, you say yes. If I ask you, is it there, you say yes. What is this nonsense? Where is it? Tell me where is it, I'll go get it. He's a warrior, So Krishna laughed and said, the ultimate truth about life is at the tip of your nose. Now there are many schools of yoga who are intensely focusing on the tips of their noses. You try focusing on the tip of your nose, within 2 minutes you'll get a headache, you'll not get enlightenment. So all he's saying is it's the most obvious. The problem is it's here, but your senses are set there. So you just need a little bit of turning around, that's all.
Is this line often go back to the Bible about many being called but few chosen. It seems like a very unfair spiritual process. It seems like a very undemocratic process. So the line, I think, is about many being called but few chosen.
I would say many being called, but few choose. Few choose to really come. It's not few are chosen, just a few choose to take the step. People ask me how many steps. Just say, I tell them, take one step. And there is only one step. You have taken 1,000,000 steps outward, just one step inward, that's all it takes. But you can't take a step inward like this, you have to turn around and take it. But you're not willing to turn around because you made investments on the outside. It is not that if you turn inward, you lose the outside. It is not so. It is an uncalled for fear. And once again, this fear has been nourished by all kinds of misinterpretations of spirituality. People have always told you if you turn spiritual, you will leave everything and go away. If you turn spiritual, your residence has to be in a Himalayan cave along with the rodents. It cannot be in Bombay. Yes. So an inward step has nothing to do with Himalayas or with Mumbai. It's got nothing to do. Mumbai and Himalayas is a choice of residence, that's all. That's an outward thing, it's nothing to do with your spirituality at all. You like to live in the mountains, fine, it's up to you. It has its advantages and disadvantages. You like to live in Mumbai, it has its advantages and disadvantages, isn't it? It is just that for a long time, all those people who wanted to, because there was no process of divorce in India, a lot of people chose spirituality as a way to leave their family. Okay. Because there was no honorable way of leaving your family unless you said, I'm going spiritual. So it's an excuse that a lot of people have used for a very long time. I don't think now you need an excuse, do you?
But I don't find my inside a very nice place.
You have never seen your inside. What you are right now calling as inside is your mind. Your mind is not inside. Your mind is just society's garbage bin, isn't it? Everything in your mind you picked up from outside. Everything that is in your mind is just what you've been exposed to, isn't it so? Isn't it so? So your mind is not inside, your mind is outside.
Processing also. We do some processing of that garbage.
You do some processing.
I used to come and sit and listen to you, but I won't choose to go and…
Yes. See, you have no choice about what you take in. You have choice about what you make use of and what you don't. Yes? But even that choice is not really a choice, because that choice is also set up by something else that's gone in earlier. So you really have no great choice about it. Everything, the content of your head and the content of your body, both were collected from outside, isn't it so? You understand what I'm saying? This body you slowly accumulated. How? Just by eating food, isn't it? The content of your mind also you accumulated, just by your exposure and the impressions of what enters you through the 5 agencies. And these 5 agencies that you're using to collect the impressions of life around you, they are not reliable at all. When I say they're not reliable, one thing is, people have always told you, seeing is believing. Seeing is not believing, you know very well, everybody sees what they want to see, isn't it? Does everybody see the same thing? No, everybody sees what they want to see. Everybody does not see what is there. And going more fundamental into the very process of vision itself, even that's not reliable. Why is this so? That even something so fundamental is questionable is, sense organs were opened only to serve survival. They are sufficient instruments of survival. But if you're seeking something beyond survival, now you're talking enlightenment, which is not a survival process. Once you're looking at something beyond survival, then sense organs are no good. You have to have another dimension of perception. So the whole process of spirituality is just about enhancing your perception. Unfortunately, If I use the word spirituality, people think they'll have to do Ram Ram or go sit in the temple or in the church or mosque, or they have to give up their food or they have to give up their clothing or something. It's not about that, it's about enhancing your perception. The only way to know is by enhancing your perception. Everything else is just belief, isn't it? And what you believe is immaterial, because if we work hard enough on you, we can make you believe any damn thing. We know that very well. We just have to work hard enough on you. We can make you believe the weirdest of things in the world if we work upon you right from your childhood, isn't it so? Haven't you seen enough of life around? You know that. So what you believe, whatever it may be, is of no existential value. It may have social value. When you talk about enlightenment, you are not talking about social or personal dimension of life. You're talking about an existential dimension of life. If you have to be open, if you have to know life in an existential way, the only way is to enhance your perception, not by thinking it up, not by philosophizing, not by discussion, not by believing. Only with enhanced perception can you receive life, can you know life. There is no other way to know life. So enlightenment means a heightened level of perception in an ultimate way. If your perception is full on, you receive everything that can be received and know life in its totality. We would call that enlightenment. Now that you asked, how does it feel? Let me try to work around that. Fundamentally, it would, technically, I would say, enlightenment would be like this. If you sit here, your body is here, your mind is out there, what is me is always away from these two things. You can use the body, you can use the mind, but what is you is always a little away from these two things. If you look at life's experience, the biggest limitation upon you right now is your body and your mind. But the only two possibilities in your life are also your body and mind. Yes? The only possibility to exist here is just your body and your mind. At the same time, the biggest limitations upon you are also your body and mind, isn't it? The source of all suffering that any human being may know is his body and mind, isn't it so? Is there any other suffering? All the suffering in the existence, all the human suffering on the planet, the manufacturing unit is in your mind, isn't it so? If you have a little distance from this body and mind, now once you have a clear experience that you are free from suffering, once there is no fear of suffering, how would you live here? Every step that you take right now is half a step, because there is a fear of what will happen to me, what will happen to me, what will happen to me. If you carefully observe your life, I would say, for a majority of the population, at least 90% of their life is dedicated to their security. Their life, the steps that they take in their life are not being taken in search of joy or love or freedom or anything. It is always in search of security, isn't it so? Yes? When you're constantly in pursuit of security, what you're doing is you're in pursuit of death. Because life is never secure. It doesn't matter what you do, how much insurance you have, how much bank balance you have, how many thousand people you have around you. Tomorrow morning you may just fall dead. Yes? We're not wishing it, but it can happen, isn't it? It's happening to so many people. It can happen to you or me tomorrow morning, isn't it? So as long as you're a physical body, as long as your life and the experience of life is limited only to the physical and the mental, living with fear and being constantly security-oriented is unavoidable. It's inevitable. That's the only way you can live. So if your experience of life transcends the limitations of the physical, now physical and mental are there in your life, but you are never a part of it. You can use it, you can enjoy it, but you never become that. If this freedom is attained, can you imagine how you will live? Unbridled life, isn't it? You can play with life any way you want, but life cannot leave a single scratch upon you. Is that a good description of enlightenment? Is it worthwhile?
It sounds right.
Huh?
It sounds frightening also.
Frightening what?
When you're enlightened, does that person become like vapor? That you begin to see that you begin to see that everything is like Maya and illusion and everything fades, and people who, if someone you love gets enlightened, would they also see that you're meaningless and
You should ask people around me whether I love them or my involvement with them is more or less than anything that they have known in their life with anybody. With thousands of people, I'm very deeply, passionately involved. If you're free from suffering, if you're free from the fear of suffering, would you hesitate to involve yourself in life or would you throw yourself into life? Right now you're hesitating. Right now most of you are made like this. If somebody suddenly smiles at you on the street, you hesitate. Why is this man smiling at me? Because you're afraid what would be the consequence of that. Fundamentally you're afraid tomorrow it may hurt me, tomorrow something else may happen to me out of this, isn't it? So you're constantly hesitating to involve yourself with life simply because of fear of suffering. If fear of suffering is taken away, you could give yourself absolutely to everything around you, isn't it? So this way, would you love more or less, love less? Would you love more or less?
difficult to imagine, but logically from what you've said, yes.
See, I can only speak logically to you. Do you want me to speak another language which is not logical?
You don't mind, I have no problem with fuzzy. But I have a problem
but
with
still logic.
If the world is
Fuzzy logic.
organized like that, is it organized? If it's illogical, then I don't mind illogical. But is it illogical?
See, logic means to carry on any kind of logic, you need you and me to have a logical speech. When you say enlightenment, you're talking about one. Now, the modern science is a logical development. But today, physics has reached a point where it's no more logical, because the scientists have made too much investment in logic and they're unwilling to admit that they're turning illogical, they're giving the name fuzzy logic to their illogical nonsense. They're afraid to admit that their logical ways have no further scope to pursue science. That's the reason these kind of words have been coined. If you're fuzzy, how can you be logical, tell me? To be logical, you must be like a knife, isn't it so? Yes or no? If you want to be logical, you must be like a knife, cutting everything into pieces. If you're fuzzy, how will you be logical? So fuzzy logic itself is illogic, isn't it so? The very terminology is illogic. So right now, science is beginning to realize that logical way of approaching things is limiting. It cannot take you beyond a certain point. It's a good realization. But they have made so much investment in the logical, they're afraid to turn around and say that or do something else, because then all that you've worked on may become meaningless, like you're saying, it may become Maya. So if it is Maya, what's your problem seeing that? I have not said this, okay, this is not my statement. I am saying, in truth, if suppose person next to you is just a bubble of air, what is your problem in seeing it that way? Because you made an investment, isn't it?
Yeah, actually.
If you're a vested interest, you shouldn't talk about enlightenment. If you're a seeker, wanting to know what is true, only then you should talk about it. Now if you're telling me, even if this person is just a bubble of air, I would like to think he's made of gold, then I'm fine with you. I'm fine with you as a friend, but I won't talk enlightenment to you, because you have no intention like that. You have no intention of seeing life just the way it is. Why are we afraid of seeing life the way it is? You think the way creation is not as good as the way you have imagined it? That's a foolish idea, because you are just a piece of creation. whatever you are imagining about life, the way creation is must be far more beautiful than the way you are imagining it, isn't it? Because you are just a tiny speck of creation. If you can think up so much, what created you must be much, much more, isn't it so? At least is it logical to see it that way?
And I see my mind as a fractured, fissured place with great capacity for violence. And therefore, extrapolating from that, my inventor could well have been demented. And the whole world, the whole of creation might not be benevolent. And that frightens me. So that's why I want him to be not a bubble of air.
Now, you need to understand this. Only the fundamentals of life were created by whatever you refer to as the creator. The rest of it is your creation. If you have a demented mind, that is definitely your creation. You already told me that no matter what information gets into me, I still have a choice of processing it the way I want. So right now, if it has processed itself to a corner where it's become violent, whose creation is this? Whose creation is this? It's your creation, isn't it? So it's got nothing to do with the creator as such. Whatever the existence right now around you, whatever you have seen, whatever created this, is it far beyond your intelligence and imagination? Yes? Is it well beyond it? Even a single atom, is it well beyond your perception and understanding and intelligence right now? Yes or no? So, such a magnificent creation that you can't even understand a tiny bit of it properly, could it be wrong? This right and wrong is your idea, isn't it? The only right thing to do is to be in tune with the existence and the creation, isn't it? Now, you are not living in the world, you are not a living being, because 95% of the time, you're only thinking about life, you're not living life. Whatever you're thinking, you're beginning to believe is life, unfortunately. What you think is not life. What you think has nothing to do with life. You can think whatever you wish to, but it has nothing to do with life as such.
What yoga practices you performed by which you got this kind of ecstatic and blissful experience?
I told you they were very simple and physical, nothing spiritual about it. But what you need to understand is, if something larger has to happen, it's very important that… See, right now what you consider as myself is just these four elements. Your physical body, your mind, your emotion and the life energy which makes these things happen. These are the four components which you call as myself, isn't it? If you want something bigger to happen, you must put these four things in proper alignment. So all yoga is structured and designed to put these four dimensions in absolute alignment. So these four dimensions of body, mind, emotion and energy means head, heart, hands and energy. Is there anybody here who's only head, not heart, not hands, not energy? You're a combination of these four things, isn't it? So you need these four basic yogas. There are only four yogas. They are known as Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga and Kriya Yoga. Jnana means if you employ your intelligence to reach your ultimate nature, it's called Jnana Yoga. If you employ your emotion to reach your ultimate nature, we call it Bhakti Yoga. If you employ your body to reach your ultimate nature or action, we call it Karma Yoga. If you transform your inner energies and reach your ultimate nature, it's called Kriya Yoga. These are the only four ways. But which one shall I take? There is no such choice, because you are a combination of all these four. You have to employ them in right proportion. Now in this person, the head may be dominant, in that person the heart may be dominant, in that person the body may be dominant. Accordingly, a right mixture has to be done, otherwise it won't happen. There's a very beautiful story in the yogic lore. Are you okay for stories? On a certain day, 4 men were walking in the forest. One is a Jnana Yogi, another is a Bhakti Yogi, another is a Kriya Yogi, another is a Karma Yogi. Usually these 4 people can never be together because they can't stand each other. A Jnana Yogi, who is employing his intelligence, has great disdain for everybody. He thinks everybody is an utter fool, especially these bhakti people who are looking up and saying Ram Ram. He can't stand them at all. Yes? Sir? Bhakti people, they have sympathy for everyone. When God is here, instead of just holding His hand and walking all this hair splitting and nonsense, this yoga standing on your head, holding your breath, twisting your body, just utter nonsense. Just call for God's help and it will happen. Karma yogi thinks all these idiots are just lazy. To cover up their laziness, they've invented all these stupid yogas. Kriya yogi has absolute disdain for everybody because after all the whole life is energy. If you don't transform the energy, where is the way? So these four people can never get along together. But today they were walking together. Suddenly a rainstorm broke loose. So they started running looking for shelter. Because the bhakti yogi knows the geography of temples, he said, in this direction in the forest there's an ancient temple, let's go there and get some shelter. They all ran there. They know all the geography of temples in the country. So they ran and then they found the temple. The temple was in a dilapidated condition. Just the roof and 4 columns were there were no walls, all gone long ago. The storm became more and more severe and started lashing from every direction, so they went closer and closer. In the center of the temple there is a lingam or whatever is the symbol of Shiva. They had no other place to sit to escape the storm, so they just hugged the lingam and sat, all 4 of them. Not out of any love for God or anything, just to escape the storm. Suddenly God appeared. In all their 4 minds, the immediate question was, why now? So much yoga we did, so much sadhana we did, you did not come. Just now, when we're just trying to escape the storm, here you are, why? So God said, at last you 4 idiots got together. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. This is the biggest problem. If these 4 dimensions are not in alignment, nothing big can happen. You're trying to drive your car, one wheel pointed this way, one wheel pointed this way. You know what a torture you will be? That is a torture right now that you see in people. Their mind is this way, their heart is this way, their body is somewhere else, their energy is somewhere else. How do you expect them to travel smoothly to any destination for that matter? Yoga, what we are referring to as inner engineering, is just to align these 4 wheels in such a way that you travel smoothly. Right now, you're in the direction of hell, it doesn't matter. Once your car is going well, you can just make a U-turn in no time, isn't it? But you have this torture of a vehicle where 4 wheels are pointing in 4 different directions, which way will you go? You cannot go any way, you will just get sucked in and pushed by situations. Your direction is not decided by you, your direction is decided by the situations in which you live. That is the life of a slave, isn't it?
Why is there so much talk of the human being's enlightenment? And why is the human being being given so much choice to be selfish and not be useful, like everything else is in the universe?
See, even the earthworm is not thinking of being useful. Earthworm is also greedy for his survival. He wants to eat as much as he can, he wants to reproduce as much as he can. With what little he knows, he is very selfish. Yes? But his selfishness, we are taking advantage of it in some way to our selfishness. So all creatures, they are structured in such a way, they are not thinking of serving anybody. Don't think the tree outside is thinking of giving flowers to you, it's just trying to reproduce. Yes? It is trying to attract the bees and the birds and reproduce. It is not trying to give flowers to you to do puja in your puja room or wear it in your hair or smell it and feel wonderful about it. It is not at all concerned about you. It is striving for its survival and reproduction, isn't it? Isn't it so? You are giving it all kinds of meanings in your head. But all life, every creature, a plant, animal, insect, worm, is only striving for its survival. But because the creation is such that one striving for survival eats up another one and makes another one survive out of that, the whole process is a chain and it happens. You know the food chain and all that stuff. Why human life needs so much attention is because we are human beings. Earthworms may be having a meeting right now talking about their enlightenment, okay? But their methods won't work for you. Because we are human society, we are sitting here and talking about human enlightenment. So it's not just that we are paying so much attention to our lives, they are also paying enormous attention to their lives. They are not ignoring their lives. But what is the distinction is, animal life is still compulsive. In yoga, we look at life as happening in three different dimensions. This is called Mruga, Manusya and Deva. That means animal nature, human nature and divine nature. Animal nature is well established. Divine nature is very well established. What you call as human is not established. This moment you can be godlike, next moment you can be like a brute. You are swinging between the two. Sometimes you are near to this, sometimes you are near to that. Isn't it so? Look at yourself and see in 24 hours' time how many swings you make. This moment you're wonderful, next moment you're nasty, next moment you're beautiful, next moment you're ugly. Isn't this happening to you? Yes? So you're constantly swinging. There is no such thing that you can point out and say, this is human nature. Humanity is a flux. They can become anything they want. No other animal has this freedom. So this life, which was in that compartmentalized animal nature, has now evolved into a status where it is no more restricted, it can become anything it wants. This is a freedom, but this is what human beings are suffering right now. What people are suffering is not their bondage, what people are suffering is their freedom. That's why it's so tragic. If you're suffering your bondage, that is fine, but you're suffering your freedom. See, if your life was fixed up like animal nature, you wouldn't be suffering so much, isn't it? For example, let's say a tiger is born. He is not sitting there and planning and calculating how to become a good tiger. Just find enough food, he will become a good tiger. Yes? Gobble up as much food as you can, he will become a good tiger. He has no such fears and insecurities, will I become a tiger, will I end up as a house cat? These kind of problems don't exist for him. You are born as a human being. To become a good human being, how many things you have to do? And still you don't know. After all this, you still don't know where you belong, isn't it so? Compared to another human being, you can say, oh, okay, I am better than him. But by yourself, you do not know where you belong. Because what you call as human being is not established. You are left free by nature. This is a tremendous possibility. Later, nature left you free like this, trusting your intelligence, that naturally you will seek higher, not the lower. Because there is something within you which is always trying to seek the highest that you know, isn't it? If you know money, you want to be the richest man in the world. If you know power, you want to be the most powerful man in the world. If you are an arty person, you want to be the most artistic person in the world. Whatever you know as life, it is very natural for you to seek the highest in that, isn't it? So whatever you expose yourself to, you want to go there. So this is a natural urge. So this urge has been put into you and you've been left free to become whatever you want with the trust that you will anyway go for the highest. But right now, human beings are going about as if they want to disprove that. So, the talk about human enlightenment has risen only because of this unstructuring of life for you. If it was very structured, as it is for every other creature, we wouldn't be talking to you about enlightenment, we would be talking to you only about survival. And survival and survival. But now, that your life has been slightly unstructured, you can make yourself into anything that you wish. This moment, if you are willing, you can make yourself very joyful and pleasant. This moment, if you want, you can make yourself very unpleasant and something else, isn't it so? So the choice is always there every moment. Most of the time, you are not exercising this choice because you are existing in a compulsive way as a reaction to many things around you. Now the whole effort, what we call a spiritual process or path, is to transform this compulsive being into your conscious being, to make every aspect of life, from A to Z, from the process of life, from the process of being born, from the process of living and death and choosing the very womb that you're born in, into your conscious process. Everything, life and death, into your conscious process. That is what spiritual path means.